All right, this is a speech. We finished the Davar Malchut of this week. So this is a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. It's printed in Likuti Sichot Gimel. Here it's printed in Hebrew, but this is here's Yiddish. This is a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1962. A very interesting and bizarre subject. Here we go. Ready? It says, Oifan Pasuk, it says on the sentence, I know this is in Yiddish, right? So you'll learn Yiddish also here. On the sentence, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, the first of the 10 commandments. The first of the 10 commandments. The Jewish people heard it. It says that their souls jumped out of their bodies. They heard the first of the 2 commandments. I am God, your God. Anochi is the first word they heard. I am God, your God. It says this word Anochi is the highest, it's above all names of God. This is I, God's essence. Anochi, I. Above all the names. Then God came into the different names. Havaya, the highest name of God. Elokecha, in some ways that's the lowest name of God. I am God, your power. Okay, but I is the essence of God. Highest name of God there can be, Anochi. It's not even a name of God, actually. It's too high. It says in a Midrash, there's a Midrash. Which Midrash is it? Midrash Tanchuma. Midrash Tanchuma, it says that this word Anochi, the first word of the 10 commandments, the Holy of Holies of Judaism, the essence of God, Lashon Mitzri is an Egyptian word. As does the word Anochi is Ganum and Gavern from their Mitzrish Shpach, the word Anochi, God took it from Egyptian language. Huh? Big disappointment. We have to understand that Divorce, the 10 commandments, they include the whole Torah. Nemen in Zich, they take them in themselves, they include in themselves the whole entire Torah. The whole entire 5 books of Moses are in the 10 commandments. Like I told you, Rabbi Sadia Gaon, there's 613 letters in the 10 commandments. Every letter he ascribed to a different commandment. Therefore, the 10 commandments, they include all the commandments. We are clear in the Azhoras from Rabbi Sadia Gaon. Oh, there it is, Rabbi Sadia Gaon. When Oich Nirmaz, and it's also hinted in that, in this, what the 10 commandments also have 613 letters, corresponding to the 613 commandments of the Torah. And the 7 commandments of the Rebbe, not 620, corresponding to 613 commandments of the Torah and 7 commandments of the rabbis. Like we said before, the Erev Tavshilin, etc., 7 commandments of the rabbi. In the Aseres Divorce and the 10 commandments themselves, Zane the Erster Tzvei, the 2 commandments, the first 2 commandments, I am God and you shouldn't have any other gods. This is also a very general, this includes Anochi, this includes all of the positive commandments, and Lo Yelecha, this includes all the negative commandments. Therefore, Haben Zeh, Bazundra Maila, was Anochi, V'lo Yelecha, therefore the first 2 of the 10 commandments have a special value to them. Like it says, Anochi, V'lo Yelecha, the first of the 10 commandments, the Jewish people heard directly from God. The Erster Tzvei Devorim, the first 2 commandments, Haben Mir Yidden, the Jewish people have heard directly from God alone. When in the Tzvei Diboros, and these 2 commandments, Kumter Dibor Anochi, the first word of the 10 commandments, this comes before the prohibition of there shouldn't be any other gods. So if we see the whole Torah is important. The 10 commandments includes the whole Torah. The first 2 of the 10 commandments, that includes all the rest of it, all the other 8 commandments with the whole Torah. The first of the 10 commandments, that includes even more. That's even more important. That's even more important than the second one. That's the first. This means as the word Anochi, and the first word is not just the first word in the order, but it's the most important word in the whole Torah. No oich, as the is the erster and the hechster is the highest word in the whole Torah. As is verstandig, so it's understood, oich, loit anhalt, what it means. What does the word anochi mean? And Sveiten Dibor in the second commandment, it talks about a place where a person might think that there's something other than God. Don't think there's anything other than God. And therefore, we have to say, they shouldn't have any other gods except for the Creator who took us out of Egypt. But the first of the 10 commandments, this is Gorma L'Chadchila, there's no place to think that there's something else. The Anochi implies that it's obvious that all there is God. And therefore, darf klal nit bewundern. You don't have to warn and say anything about else. Don't make any mistakes. I am God. That there's other gods. That's the second commandment. The first of the 10 commandments is saying a simple fact: God, I am God. Right? All there is one real existence, one creator of that existence. That's all there is Anochi. And the second commandment is, and if you think there's something else, maybe you should worship a person, maybe you should worship a this, or that, don't do it. When in them erster dibur, in the first commandment itself, Anochi is the first word, includes in it the whole Torah. But the first commandment is the most important, and the first word includes the whole Torah. Unvigarek, like we said before, Anochi means the essence of God. Vos ken nit, Anochi is the essence of God. Vos ken nit betzeichen, which cannot be symbolized by even a letter or any name or any, it says even any a mark or anything like that, referring to the essence of God. Nope. As if so, we got a big question over here. Is doch nit verstandig, so it's not understood. How could it possibly be that Anochi is an Egyptian word? How could that be an Egyptian word? That really doesn't make any sense. The madrigas, the levels, and Giloy Elokus of level. Okay, there's the essence of God, which that doesn't mean anything. But when God wants to make a name for his essence, so what does he do? He can do anything he wants. He took an Egyptian word. How can he take an makes no sense. Why? Big disappointment. The madrigas and Giloy Elokus, the levels in revelation of God, which can be, yes, symbolized by some sort of a name of God. We just finished learning about that, right? How God comes into his name. Yud-Ke, Vav-Ke, or Elokecha. These are also holy words, holy languages, holy aspects of God. But Anochi, which this indicates on the essence of God, and the essence of God, which this is what? An Egyptian word. How could that be? Pretty big question. Huh? Pretty big question. Nochmer, even more. I'll make the question even stronger. Nochmer, stark even more. Vert as nit verstandig is even more not understandable. Loitem biur, the explanation which is said in the Unterschied, the difference between Lashon HaKodesh and the other language. What's the difference between Hebrew and all the other languages? Hebrew and all the other languages. Hebrew is really Lashon HaKodesh. Lashon HaKodesh. That was one of the tricks that the Zionists wanted to do, was to take the language of the Torah and use the day-to-day life. That's going to be the language of the country, will be Hebrew, to make it mundane. But the fact of the matter is it didn't change anything. The fact of the matter is that Hebrew is a holy language. It's called holy. It's different from all the other languages. I know from the time, and one of the reasons for this is it's called Lashon HaKodesh. It's called a holy language. Holy language is vile as is nit. It's not. One moment. It is not. One minute. Here we go. There's not a word for irva. There's no dirty words in the Hebrew language. It's very interesting. Even in the most underworld people in Israel, and the lowest level you can get, if they want to use a dirty word, they have to borrow it from English or usually from English they borrow it. but they sort of make up sort of weird combinations, but still doesn't it doesn't come out that there's no really, how do you say, foul language in Hebrew. In Hebrew, Nitakai Nemen from the Irva, there's no words for, how do you say, for licentiousness or whatever, for Irva. As Frecht men, the Kashi can ask a question. So there's no dirty words in Hebrew, the holy language. We can ask the question, yeah, they're never everything, every creation in the world it's got its life from a word, from the words that God used to create the world. The letters from the name of a thing, they are a vessel from godly life into the world. Was wird nimshach dem nivra the esaras maimoros. When God created the world, He created it with Hebrew, and the letters, these letters, Hebrew letters that God created the world, these are units of energy, and everything in the world was created from them. Midvelcha, which with you can create the thing as muzma dach. So therefore, everything in the world has to have some sort of a name in Hebrew. As V can send, so how can it be that as gevesa zach, a thing was not nit kai namen? It doesn't. What about all these dirty things and all the dirty names and the foul language that it refers to something? How could it be that these things that they refer to don't have Hebrew names? How could it be? The explanation is, how could there be no foul, dirty words in English and in Hebrew if the whole Hebrew is the language used to create the whole world, and there's foul things in the world? How do these things exist? The answer is the Lashon Kodesh, the holy language names. This indicates a thing which is what VZ is noch in kedusha, how things are in the upper worlds. Und klol nit kein zach from irva, but not anything that's foul or dirty. When urged, then their inyan kum, but only when it comes down below in this physical world, then is it a matter of irva. So when there's all the foul, dirty things that you see in the world, they really don't deserve to be here. They're not supposed to be here. How can it come into the world? Because it's some sort of an aberration. This comes through what's called the 70 languages. Al Derech, like Hasidus, explains in great length. Was a state by him, like it says, by the sin of the tree of the knowledge. All of a sudden they knew that they were naked. As urged that previously, before they sinned, right? They didn't have any feeling that it was anything dirty or wrong with sexual things. Only by means of the sin had man understood and that they were naked. As Frechtman Daruf, so we can ask the question, wie kommt es, how can it possibly be that through a sin is zugekommen, can come understanding? Und der Tiritz is, the answer is, kodem achet, before the sin of the tree of knowledge, wie balzi is doch bechlal nit gewen, kein, by Adam, kein inyan from taiva, because there was no thing as forbidden desires, and all ivorim and all the limbs that a person had, seine doch gewen, they were nor only to serve with them God, as the Rebbe is lo yisposhashu, therefore they weren't embarrassed, they weren't ashamed. They haben nit zich nit geshem, they had no shame because they didn't do anything for themselves. They only did exactly what God wanted and the way that God wanted, what it was created for. Warum? Because vibalt she is nit gewen Orion gegangen, there was not going, one minute. There was not mixed in any sort of selfishness, personal lust or desire. Und das hat genutzt mehr nicht wie auf Mekayim sein durch dem mitzvahs. They were used only, so the sexual organs were only used to fulfill a mitzvah, the commandment of pru uravu, be fruitful and multiply. Is doch nicht gewinnt, so therefore there was not to have any shame. Sich damit. As punkt wie a mensch, just like a person, schämt sich nicht from seine Hand. A person is not ashamed of his hand or like tefillin when he puts on tefillin. Adarabba, exactly the opposite. The commandment of pru'uravut, the commandment of having relations to give birth to children, is the first commandment that was given to man. Pru'uravut, the first commandment. Ersh noch them for the first time after the sin of the tree of knowledge was hat gebracht, which that brought all sorts of desires, and people started thinking about what I want. I think selfishness and to the world. Then only then it was beganai. People could use their own hands or their sexual organs, especially for their own perversions and their own pleasures. Und dann haben Adam v'Chava verstanden. Then all of a sudden, man and his wife understood that you should be ashamed. He says that's why they covered themselves up. It ended up that shame was a good thing. Shame is a good thing. Shame is a good thing. Shame can be how do you say, detoured, can be twisted around so that a person feels shame for the wrong things. It could be, right? There's whole religions that are based on being ashamed. You have to be ashamed that you're the original sin. You got to be ashamed with shame and the shame. But the shame is really a good thing. What's shame? Shame shows that every human being has responsibility. Every human being is created with responsibility and power to fulfill that responsibility, to be a good person, to be an honest person, to be a kind person, to be a pleasant person, to be a helpful person, right? Every person has responsibility to the world, to himself. God creates us because of this responsibility, creates us. That's what man is, responsibility. And if a person doesn't do his responsibility, so he's really wrecking the whole reason why he's in the world. So God makes a thing called shame, that a person feels, well, maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe I'm not doing what I should be doing, right? So you have 5 seconds of shame. Not that person lives his whole life in shame. I'm so bad. I'm so evil. I have to. But nevertheless, shame is good. So, but before Adam ate from the tree, there was nothing to be ashamed about. They didn't have any desire to be lazy or to be selfish or to the Sheva. So all the other things that the how do you say the licentious and the decadent things in the world that have names, these names come from the other languages. The Shivim Lashon, the others. Now we're going to come up a question. Well, 1 second. Egyptian is one of the 70 languages. What's going on? And that's the first word of the Torah. The 70 languages themselves are also divided into a lot of different levels. Like we had the different words in the Torah, more important, more holy. Also the same thing by the 70 languages. When from Zay is the Lashon Mitzri, the lowest of all the languages is Egyptian. Is Gora Nidra Kadarga, it's the lowest. I don't think that the Egyptians have the same language anymore. I don't think it's the same language as it used to be. Huh? I don't think so. Somebody has to check. We're talking about 5,000 years ago, the same language that the world. I don't think the Egyptians had the same language. Because Mitzrayim, the whole idea of the land of Egypt, Vert Gerufen, is called Erva Sa'oretz. It's called the, how do you say, the Erva Sa'oretz, the, how do you call it? What's the Erva Sa'oretz? Erva is the nakedness. The nakedness, the decadence. Oh, the decadence of the world. I guess there's no better word for it. The most decadent place in the world. Un Ira mentioned the people there were shtufi bezanut. Says that the Egyptians back then, says the Egyptians, there's even a special commandment: don't do like the people of Egypt and the people of Canaan. Well, the people of Egypt, I don't think that they're the same as it used to be back then. I don't think it's the same. Well, listen, for sure, there's not the same people. It says that Sennacherib came and confused the whole world, except for the Jews. But every nation, every place has its own sort of spirit of that place. How do you say, the atmosphere that causes a certain nature of the people that are there. But I don't know if the Egyptians are more, decadent than the people in San Francisco or something like that. But the Canaanim, that's in the Canaan. It says the Canaanim are also. And from what the Hamas just did now when they broke in, I mean, that's like the lowest levels of decadence that you can possibly reach. So I think we can safely say that even the Egyptians to now are not the same Egyptians as back then, but there's a commandment in the Torah not to do like the Egyptians, not to do like the Canaanim. It's a commandment. And from that, they learn all sorts of perversions here that are forbidden to do. So the Egyptians, I don't think, are the same way, but the Canaanim for sure are. The Hamas and these people, and they were just regular citizens that came in with them, right? Came in with them, and they murdering the most. Anyway, however it is, the lowest language in the world of all the languages is Egyptian. Egyptian is the most decadent and perverted people and nation in the world. Ois ge lesson. How do you say immoral? No morals whatsoever, no limit. Was in them besteed, which in this is the Mila from the Sprach, wie erklärt früher. This is the quality of the language, like we said before. From deswegen, in other words, Egyptian is the lowest of the languages possible. And the word ANOCHI is the highest level of holiness. From deswegen, b'shas the Torah, when the Torah had to be given into the world, as what? From the essence of God, as which word did he choose to use to call himself? Egyptian. So now the question is really big. How can it be? We thought, how can the first word be a non-Jewish word? Now we're seeing that Egyptian, at least from that time, was the worst, lowest language in the world, right? The worst possible language in the world was Egyptian. And God chose for the first word of the Ten Commandments, the highest of the level of holiness, he chose the lowest possible language in the world. Why? They're declaring, the teaching is like this. Bald in the erster Wert, in the first word which God had spoken by the giving of the Torah, hot Maram, he already hinted at why God is giving the Torah. God is giving the Torah. To leave vos is their gilui. Why did God reveal himself? Nitve biz done, not like it was revealed only to or just a ray of godliness in the world, like to Abraham. Nor the essence of godliness would be revealed to every single Jew when they did the commandments. The essence of God would be revealed. Why is God doing this? Why? It was revealed to Lib Lashon HaMitzri. The whole reason that God is revealing it is only for the sake of the Egyptian language. What does that mean? The tachlis from Torah, the whole purpose of the Torah is to draw down Moshiach Zayin, to draw down Kedusha, holiness. One minute. Oh. Nitblo is not only in the yearning from Lashon HaKodesh, not only into holy things, to leave them for this, you don't have to have a special power to give him at Mount Sinai. If God wanted to draw down holiness only into holy things, so God it could be that he could have given the Torah wherever he wanted to. Wouldn't make any difference, right? He could have given it to Abraham, Abraham privately. The tzvek, the whole purpose of the giving of the Torah is to bring down godliness into the 70 languages, until even the language of Mitzri, the Mitzrayim Yeradatim, und dort mamshich sein kedusha, to draw down holiness there. Egypt is also being created by God. True, they could be misusing it. And again, to stress, not to be politically correct, but when we're talking about Egypt, we're not talking about the country Egypt. We're talking about the lowest aspects of this world. And at that time, Egypt ruled over the whole world, and their immorality was the rule in the whole entire world. And there was you do whatever you want to. That was Egyptian. Nowadays, the country Egypt is not ruling over the whole world, and it's not particularly immoral, the country, as far as I know. But the immorality that was ruled back then in Egypt, that still is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. That a feeling of, and that's the whole idea of the Torah, is to bring morality and to bring, how do you say, the self-control, and that's called holiness. In other words, to remember all the time, why am I being created, to bring into the world, even the lowest places. When a zoy is same thing that's from God coming down, also from below to above. Then undurch was, when and by means of what, nemt men, can we reach the level of Anochi, the essence of God? Durch Lashon Mitzri Davka, only by Egyptian language. What does it mean? calls a man, men tut nit mit Welt, all the time that you're not dealing with the world, bis euch mit the inyanim from Mitzrayim, even from the things of Mitzrayim, zu machen euch for kelim, tzolokus, to make them vessels for God, is chach mitut in Torah and tefillah. Even though that we're working in Torah and tefillah for itself, is v grois, no matter how great and wonderful what you're doing, is zol nit zayin, is nit hoich, mi zol durich ir nits kumen. You cannot come to the high level as can men nit levels. No matter how many high things you do, you learn Torah, you do commandments, you make yeshivas. People are learning Torah all over the place. That's wonderful. It really is wonderful. But it still cannot reach the true essential point of what the Torah wants, and that is bringing God's, no matter how many of God's names you reveal, is durich dem avoda, by means of the work you do in holiness, is men a kli to shem elokus, your only vessel for godliness, which is in nature. Durich der avoda, but by means of doing something higher than intelligence, higher. So, like it says, Havaya, Haya, Havaviyah Ke'echad, the name of the essence of God, past, present, and future, like one, that you can reach by holy things. That you can reach by doing holy things, by being a holy Jew and doing Torah and doing commandments, and that's wonderful. You get Olam Haba, you're wonderful. But says the Rebbe, but the essence of God, the word Anochi, which is above any names, any levels of holiness, can mendurich them nitnem, and you can't take while a few of the hexter madrigas, because the highest levels of godliness, seine nit kein kli, are not a vessel for God's essence. Like it says, King David said, Hashemayim, Hashemayim, the heavens and the highest levels of heavens, they cannot include you, God. The Gor Hechser Ruchnis, almost the highest worlds in Madrigos, seine nit kein kli, are not a vessel for the essence of God. Where can you get the essence of God? For them, Eberster, for God alone, Himself. Nor them sium a pasuk, like it says, mit Tamia, Kayemis, it says the heavens and the heavens. How can God be included anywhere? It says, Afkia Baisazeh, this God told King David and King Solomon to build a house. It says the holiest of the highest worlds can't include you. You're going to be put into a little house. How can it be? Is Af Kia Baisazeh. Abaya is a house which is built from physical things, from the in the world. That's where God is going to be. Right? It doesn't make any sense. In Judaism, the holiest, the highest thing is the holy temple, a place. Come on, Judaism is supposed to be this high, holy religion. Only in this low physical world, that's Mitzri. I'll give you a simple example. And when the Rebbe came out with this putting on tefillin, so boys used to go, one of the main places you would go to put on tefillin was in the central bus station in Tel Aviv. Central bus station in Tel Aviv, was a lot of it was outside, and it was really bad news. I mean, they had these terrible newspapers and magazines that were there, just, awful, just, and the worst, lowest life people that were going there would go there. In the time that I was there, at least, the 4 or 5 years, I never heard of one boy, and these were young boys from the yeshiva, full of fire, full of this, right? The one boy tripped up in the bad things that were there, right? There were so many weird temptations and all sorts, and the boys, they just went there for one reason, to put tefillin on people. Those boys that went not for that reason, it could be that they started off with the bad, but most of them that went, 99.9% that went there, nothing bad happened. They were putting on tefillin. They were asking people going by, would you like to put on tefillin? Would you like to put on tefillin? Other people were asking, would you like to buy drugs? Would you like to, right? And they were saying, would you like, all of a sudden there was holiness in this lowest of places. And others were saying, how can you take a young boy from a yeshiva and send him to such terrible places? How can you do it? So the Rebbe said, that's exactly the point. You're right. It's a dangerous thing, and you have to really be watch out. But on the other hand, somehow or other, you have to bring godliness into these places. Right? We're not talking about doing not holy things and making a blessing on them or something. We're talking about doing what's right, and only because it's right, and not paying attention to the place where you are. Durch der avoda, by means of this service, and even the serving God, even the lowest places, that even at the land Mitzri, is by means of this we can take the Anochi. Ana nafshi kasavis says the word Anochi is I, my soul, I wrote and I gave. When God gave the Torah, He gave Himself. Der Eibishter God had sich himself, a rein geschrieben. He wrote himself, and Ibr and up gegeben, and He gave Himself over to the Jewish people. His essence, the Anochi, He gave it over with a hint, Mitzri. What do you mean? Use the Torah to fix up the world. And therefore, is doch as durch dem Taina that the Mitzrim Yeradatim, God said to the angels said, give us the Torah. We want the Torah. We'll do the spiritual things like Abraham did. And God said to them, you know what the first of the 10 commandments is? And the angels said, let's just forget it. It says that I am God that took you out of Egypt. You angels went into Egypt. You went into Egypt. Had men given the Torah, therefore He gave the Torah to the Jews only. So what's the point? The Horoah means that what's the whole point of this? It's clear. Man tor nit benugenen. You should not be satisfied only with eingene inyanim, with your own holiness. Nor men darftan, you have to do with the world. Well, the avodah in the service has to be in two ways. Number one, nit abschließen sich, not locking yourself away in the eingene fear island and your four, like the four amas, whatever the four, in your little area of holiness. Nor machen euch de Welt, you have to make the world a vessel for godliness. Number two, euch benogea lavoda mit sich allein, and also when you do work with yourself, increasing your love of God, your understanding of God, you're learning Torah, you're doing the commandments, is wenig, it's not enough, sich zu abgeben, to give yourself only with learning Torah, prayer, doing the commandments. Nor as muz euch sein der bechol dorchecha doeu. You have to spread godliness in everything you do. As is wenig, it's not sufficient, der kiyum, the mitzvahs, to doing the commandments of the Torah, of the rabbis, to do the special chumras, all the special, being special exact in the commandments from the early rabbis, the later rabbis. Was does a line, which this itself is Torah, as a Torah is longer than nor but as fathered zich oich darchecha. Not just doing Torah and doing the commandments and doing the special commandments. In other words, all the things of Judaism you do in the utmost way. But what about the things that are not Judaism? When you go to your job, when you eat a meal, when you're talking with your friends, when you're with your family, even in your most personal things, your ways, things which are mundane things, optional things in the world, which you can take it or leave it. You don't, if you want to eat lunch, you eat lunch. You don't want to eat lunch, you don't eat lunch, right? Optional things. What you look at when you look at your cellular phone, what welche is begrenzt in the world, namely Egypt. As also you should also know God in everything you do. This should not be light, it should in your eyes. Second, how do we do this? Here we go. A person can say, okay, listen, this is Judaism. Come on, really. I mean, Judaism is a religion, and it's a different religion. It's the true religion. Eventually it's going to be the only religion for the Jews and the 7 Noah commandments. I'll deal with Jewish things. I'll do it. Let God take care of the other stuff. Says, what about how you act when you're in your business? What about how you act when you're with your friends? What about it says, those things are not so important. Says the Rebbe, don't say that. Don't say that. Why? Because it's part of the Torah. It says, B'chol dorechecha do'eyo, in all of your ways you should know God. Is upke engik. This in some ways, the whole essence of the Torah depends on that. There was a big movement in Judaism, and from that, I guess, came the Reform movement. And it said, they're saying was, Adam Yehudi bebeitecha v'Adam b'tzeitecha. You have to be a Jew when you're in your house, but when you go on the street, you're like everybody else. In other words, when you're in you do religious things. You have a Passover service, etc. But when you're around other people, then you're a person. You're not a Jew anymore. Says the Rebbe. No, the whole entire Torah depends on this. Parshat Katana Shekol Torah. This is a small portion of the Torah. And if it's lacking the service, what happened over here? What's going on? Something happened. If it's lacking,
Your video's off.
my
Your
video
video's off.
off. 1 minute. All right, not important. But you can see the text, right?
Yes.
It's, okay. So it says, according to law, it says if a person does Judaism in a religious way, that even if you're doing everything according to law, but you can bring a destruction into the everything of holiness, because what you're saying is that the Judaism is connected to God and the world is connected to me. It says that the Jerusalem was only destroyed because Shemamirin Dineim al Dini Torah, that everything they did was only what you have to do according to the Torah, but no more. Farvos is Charuv. What is destroyed? Jerusalem. Why was Jerusalem destroyed? It says too much over here. Why was Jerusalem destroyed? It says Val because they haven't avek gestelt, because they did all of their offering, their conduct, only according to exactly what the Torah says. Well, the Gisa, what about how you are in your business and how you treat your customers? And it's men for Torah. That's where the Torah is supposed to be. The ANOCHI, Misha ANOCHI, the essence of God. That's the language of Egypt. It's an Egyptian word. It means that the godliness has to be brought even into the ANOCHI, can be brought only into the day-to-day life, how you are in your day-to-day life. Un Elokecha, right? If you have a big person that learns Torah, Talmud, learns everything, and he gets angry. He has a bad temper, right? You disturb his learning, he gets angry at you. He wrecked the whole thing. He wrecked the whole thing. All of his Torah is down in the toilet. He made a big, what you say, a disgrace for the name of God. He cheats a little bit. He lies a little bit. When all the 10 Commandments, until Asher Riyacha, the end of the 10 Commandments, that you should only do to what you do to your friends, right? Don't desire the things of your friends. Was Zainen in all mitzvahs, they have to bring godliness even into the most mundane, regular, seemingly normal things. You have to be thinking about what does God want, say a word of Torah, do a good deed, and everything, be honest, be super nice to everyone, be a good example, and bring godliness into even Egypt. And then we'll reinstate the situation in the world where it was before Adam ate from the tree, that people won't even consider doing bad things. It's like a person cutting off his finger. Nobody wants to do that. That's what's going to be, God willing, when Moshiach comes and everyone brings the Anochi into Mitzrayim. Now let's do the Yom Yom. 1 second. Stop the share. Some more the video is off. Here we go. No, it's on. There we go. And now let us do the 1 minute Yom Yom. A little bit over here. Here we go. Not what I wanted. Today is February the 1st. Okay. Ready? Yes. Let's do the. Oh, here we go. Share the screen. We're still recording.